Thank you for attending the Cannabis Investor Webcast. I would like to thank our platinum sponsors, Nemus BioScience Incorporated, American Green Incorporated, and Technical 420. Technical 420 will be giving away a free stock report to one of the attendees of this presentation. Please visit technical420.com to view their latest stock reports. Our presenter today is from Nemus BioScience, and he is the CEO. And I will now turn the screen over to you, John Hollister, CEO of Nemus BioScience.
Hi, Derwin. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. And hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm John Hollister, the CEO for Nemus BioScience, and it's my privilege today to introduce you to our very exciting company. But before I get going, I need to just remind you that during the course of the discussion, we will be, and I will be sharing some forward-looking statements. And while we've done everything that we can to make certain that we are presenting to the best of our knowledge, there are lots of variables going on in the world of drug development, and so I encourage you strongly, if you've not done so yet, to visit our website, www.nemusbioscience.com. Under Investor Relations, you'll find a whole host of information, including our Super 8K and lots of financial information that discusses the risks and all the information you could ever want to know about our company. So please do that. Without further ado, let me introduce Nemus BioScience. The vision of our company is we are a biopharmaceutical company, a drug development company that wants to bring the benefits of cannabinoid-based pharmaceuticals to physicians and patients. We want to do this in a range of different indications, and we want to become the premier developer of cannabinoid pharmaceuticals to address the unmet needs. What makes us unique is we have a relationship with the University of Mississippi. And for those of you who know the field, the University of Mississippi has had a very special relationship. They've been the only entity under federal law that has been allowed to cultivate cannabis for research and commercial purposes since the late 1960s. They have done so and supplied the research community over the years, and it's the basis for why we know so much about the medicinal potential of cannabis. Further, we have, in our working relationship with them, we've licensed a novel prodrug form of THC and are working with them on a number of other chemical entities and formulations. And I'll talk more about that as we get into the discussion. We've also pulled together a great management team with a proven track record in pharmaceuticals and pharmaceutical development, and I'll speak to that in just a moment. Nemus was founded in 2012, so we've been around for a few years. Our base of operation is in California and also in Oxford, Mississippi, where we have a lab at the university. We have a management team with very deep experience in both large pharmaceutical companies and startups, as well as other public companies. And we've partnered with a whole host of world-class individuals and teams, ranging from Latham Watkins on our legal side, R&D, and Keelan Reeds and Athlon. These are different support groups for our company. In terms of our team, if you look at the right side, our co-founder, Kozlaikos, is also our chair, came originally from the legal world, although he's not our legal counsel, but he became a serial entrepreneur, very successful, and is really an inspiration for our group. He also is very knowledgeable in public company compliance, and that helps us in our establishing all of our systems internally. We've also been joined recently by Tom George, an experienced CFO who will chair our audit and finance committees on our board, and Jerry McLaughlin, a seasoned pharma veteran and is now a CEO of a biotech company. Importantly, up in the upper right corner, Dr. Mahmoud Al-Salih, he is one of the distinguished individuals in the area of cannabinoid science. He runs the Marijuana Research Project at the University of Mississippi and is widely published. In fact, he's written the book on cannabis. And he's a huge guide for us in terms of the science. In the upper left corner, that's me. So I'm a 25 plus year veteran now of the pharma and biotech industry. Post Stanford, I carried a bag for SmithKline Beecham, was on the management track with them, went to business school, went into Philadelphia and then to Europe and back to Philadelphia where I launched a product. But then was in 1996, my wife and I lived through the 100 years winter in Philadelphia and decided that both of us Californians would like to get back to the land of earthquakes, fires, and mudslides. And so we moved back and joined Averon, where I had the marketing team that branded Flu Mist, intranasal flu vaccine. We were acquired by MedImmune, and I took the opportunity to go to Southern California and join Amgen and help them launch Neulasta, which was to date the most successful biologics launch ever. And then was promoted into the global commercial lead in oncology and helped develop a whole bunch of different oncology assets, bringing them into humans, phase 1, 2, 3, and phase 4 management of Neulasta. And then in mid-2000s, along with a lot of my colleagues, we decided that we wanted to go to entrepreneurial companies. I ran a medical device company and then also the senior management in a diagnostic company. When I got word of this very interesting company called Nemus that was being born, and in May of last year joined the company and just pinch myself every day. It's an incredible place to be. One of the first things I did was set out to find a chief medical officer and had numerous really remarkable candidates, but the best of them all, Brian Murphy, decided to join the company. Brian can't be with us today. He usually accompanies me on these presentations. But Brian, after New York Medical School, did his residency at Tufts, then dual fellowships at Mass General, became a Harvard professor, went down south after a couple of years to actually practice some clinical medicine and do some research in New York, and also got an MBA at Columbia at the time. During that time, he was giving a grand round presentation, and the CEO of Roche was in the audience, unbeknownst to him, came up afterwards and asked Brian if he had ever considered coming into industry, which he then did, and has worked for Roche, Intermune, Valiant, where he actually worked with Sesamet Nabilum, which is a THC synthetic product. And then worked at a couple of startup companies. So he, like I have, experience in both big pharma and in biotech. He was responsible for numerous IND filings and subsequent approvals. And then lastly, in the lower left corner, you have Liz Perez, who brings to us as our CFO a tremendous background in both public and private companies. She also is a fellow Stanford grad, and has been a real help to us in terms of our finance side. So that's the team, and this team is definitely the core that can help bring our dream to fruition and navigate the complex world of pharmaceutical development. I think with you all as an audience, I probably don't need to spend much time on cannabinoids. We are excited about cannabinoids because the 106 or so of them that have been identified, they all have a variety of both specific and non-specific physiological influences, and we're looking at them as individuals and in combinations on what they can do in targeting different populations with them. Having said that, we also know that cannabinoids are faced with some biologic issues, and that is when cannabinoids are consumed or absorbed orally through the gut, they are subject, whether it's pill or spray, to high patient-to-patient variability, and that can be impacted also by other medications, what they eat, a whole host of different reasons. as when they pass through the lining of the gut, they then go to the liver, and for whatever reason, it results in very different responses in one person to the next. And that impacts both efficacy and also safety. Our goal is to develop these cannabinoids, the potential benefits of these cannabinoids, by being absorbed in routes other than the gut. And I can speak to that more as we go forward. What we're looking at here on this slide is a predecessor compound to the compound that we licensed, but it demonstrates what we're aiming to do with our products. In the blue graph, so the X and Y axes are the X-axis is time and the Y-axis is plasma concentration. In the gray slide, or the blue-gray graph, you see dronabinol bioavailability. The plasma concentrations spike very quickly and then drop off equally quickly. And in the other graph, what you see is a suppository version of a hemicessamine compound of THC. And with a more gradual rise, the peak is significantly lower, and it stays within what it would be projected as a therapeutic window for considerably longer with a much higher AUC. This represents the goal that we're doing in our development plan with a number of different cannabinoids. And on the right-hand side of this slide, you see some of the different routes that we could already are working on in ocular, transmucosal, and rectal. We also are looking at transdermal and also intranasal. But the development of cannabis-derived medicines, and I know your audience is very well aware of this, is a highly regulated and evolving space, which includes not only for us the FDA, but uniquely in the cannabis world, also includes the DEA, INCB, and on some level, NIDA and the funding streams. What the University of Mississippi presents us is that their experience in having worked with these entities over the years for more than 35 years for all of these groups gives us a great level of comfort and also historical expertise. Additionally, they have many people within the organization who have worked with them. They know the licensure process of laboratories, etc. Additionally, this relationship, which was challenged, this unique relationship was challenged in court, but was the U.S. Court of Appeals upheld that finding, that they could continue having this relationship. So the University of Mississippi and Nemus have entered into a series of agreements, which provides us the rights, one, to a novel THC prodrug, which I'll describe to you in a minute. The patent was issued recently. It also gives us access to, we've entered into multiple license agreements with the university. We also have, these are worldwide exclusive rights on all the compounds and also renewable perpetual rights. Importantly, the university is one of the prestigious schools in botanical sciences and also in pharmacy. So we have access to discovery, 45 or more years of experience in working with cannabinoids, whether it's genetics, extraction processes, manipulation of the different cannabinoids, stabilization of them, and in essence, drugifying of them, if you would like. We've leased a laboratory on property in their state-of-the-art incubator at Insight Park and are looking to open up work there shortly. We also are blessed with a very large number, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 PhDs and postdoc candidates who that work in this field and serve as both our discovery, but also potentially as future employees. The license I mentioned that we've the product that we've licensed from the university, the initial compound, it's a delta-9 THC amino ester, and what makes it, the patent was issued on August 19th of this past year. As I said, we have the worldwide exclusive rights to this. The patent was extremely broad for both content, for composition of matter, for process of preparation, and also for uses, and also in uses in combinations. for which we are looking at lots of different possible applications. We also conducted an extensive portfolio review later last year. And we enlisted the help of some very, very capable consultants who do this for big pharma companies to look at some 45 to 50 different potential indications we could go after. One of the dangers in drug development is that you shoot at too many targets simultaneously, and so we wanted to make certain we were aiming at the best indications with given what we know about the marketplace, which includes difficulty, what's the literature look like, so the probability of success, how difficult is it to conduct clinical trials in this area, what other competitors are being, competitive agents are being developed, so what's happening in the marketplace, and also what the deal structures look like. And from that analysis, these 5 areas rose to the top, and particularly our lead compound in glaucoma was very exciting for us for a number of reasons that I'll speak with next. Well, the lead compound for glaucoma, the reason for it is it's a very large market. There are nearly 3 million people in the U.S. who suffer from glaucoma, and this population is growing as we age. It's the largest prescription market in ophthalmology. It's also lots of prescriptions are written in this, and 28 million of them representing somewhere about $2 billion worth of prescription business per year. It's also an indication that has marked by high transients. 50% of patients require more than one drug. People change which kind of medications. The licensed medications, most of them carry black boxes. And so there's plenty of opportunity for a new entrant. In fact, there has been no new mechanism of action in this area for 20 years. We would be the first-in-class therapy because our product is novel in that we know already in rabbit models that it penetrates the eye. Importantly, it penetrates all 3 chambers of the eye. In prior studies, the parent compound THC cannot penetrate the eye very effectively, and so our molecule penetrates the eye, and then the moieties that are attached to it that allow for it to be absorbed are cleaved, and then it becomes delta-9-THC, the active compound, and we believe it's trapped then inside the eye because in the studies in rabbits, there was no systemic traceable systemic THC could be identified, and so which is encouraging from a clinical development perspective. Additionally, the measure in glaucoma, which is an objective measure, is called IOP, intraocular pressure. And what we reported at the University of Mississippi reported at the AAPS meeting at the end of last year was up to a 50% reduction in IOP in glaucoma. As I said, did not appear to have any THC enter the systemic system. We're looking at developing a once daily or BID twice daily dosing product. And we see this as a breakthrough option, which could in fact ultimately be combined with other products. The second candidate we're looking to develop, I should also add several other reasons that glaucoma are very interesting to us in that because it's an objective measure, clinical studies, the number of patients that you need in each of the phases is typically smaller. The pathway has been well studied in terms of the FDA. A number of products have gone through the process, so we can learn from others in terms of ends. Each subject or each patient in the clinical trials can serve as their own control. That is, in one eye you can get the active, and in the other eye you can get the placebo. The duration of the studies is shorter also, so the time to market is faster. The cost of each of the phases is, we hope and believe it will be less because the number of bloods or diagnostic tests that we will need to conduct, we believe will be less as a result of it not being a systemic product. Obviously, we'll have to demonstrate that. And then lastly, and perhaps importantly from the investment community, is that unlike most pharmaceutical development opportunities, most deals are done late stage, phase 3 typically. That's where you see the most deals being done. In ophthalmologic products, and glaucoma in particular, there's a bimodal distribution of deals. That is, as many are done early as are done late. And this is a function that you see, if you see a good signal at the end of a phase 1b to a clinical trial, companies often will move in at that point. And in our case, we have the opportunity, we could out-license this or we could sell it outright with little or no effect on the rest of our platform. And just to underscore, we are a drug development company. We don't have the intention of fielding a large sales force. So we're looking to use our platform of cannabinoid sciences to create a host of different pharmaceutical products for partnership with other people, other companies. Our second candidate, and I won't speak as extensively on it, is for spasticity associated with multiple sclerosis. This again is a market in need of a new product. There are roughly 400,000 individuals in the United States and 2.5 million worldwide who suffer from the spasticity in this population. This population also experiences pain, and so we will be looking as a secondary endpoint to see what signals occur in pain. As we've seen recently in the GW Pharma studies, chronic pain is a very tricky area for study. It's much more subjective, and as a result, it can be much larger clinical studies and much more expensive and much riskier. So our focus is in a population that literature really does support use, is a smaller, more focused population. The next area, so those two, the first two are THC products. The next two, actually I'll only speak to epilepsy, is in CBD. This is garnering a lot of attention in the press. We're hopeful of creating a compound of CBD that has the same ability to be absorbed through different pathways than the gut to have a more predictable efficacy and safety profile. And so we'll just speak to this briefly. Our goal is to look at a larger population within the epilepsy community and not necessarily focus or limit ourselves to orphan drug indications. The last category of our development program is in the area of methicillin-resistant Staph aureus. This product will be likely a combination of multiple cannabinoids. We're in the process of working with the university through a research agreement on optimizing the mix of those, and then we will proceed with formulations. This is likely a topical antimicrobial. In terms of our operating structure, very briefly, Nemus will be working with a number of different companies to support our efforts, ranging from the University of Mississippi in discovery. We will utilize external legal partners, as you've seen, and outside consultants in terms of development, drug development, contract manufacturing, and contract research organizations. And we already have relationships that have developed with those and have identified those who have expertise in cannabinoid manufacturing and sciences, as well as manufacture of the raw materials. And then lastly, I mentioned before, we will be looking to partner at the appropriate time with pharma and biotech companies for funding for phase 3 clinical trials and or marketing ultimately to the marketplace, both in the U.S. and internationally. At this stage, I would like to turn it over to questions, and thank you again, Derwin, for this opportunity.
The first question, John. The U.S. has put out an RFP for cannabis growers. Is this in addition to University of Mississippi, or to replace them? And what does that mean to your company?
Yeah, I mean, it's an excellent question. So this is part of the RFP is put out every 5 years for the last 35 years, I think. It may have been slightly different early on. So every 5 years, the government puts out a solicitation to the marketplace. It's part of the process. And the University of Mississippi has been awarded that every year. They've committed a lot of resources at GROW, which is 12-acre piece of property. They know the process. They have all the procedures in place, and the sense is that they probably will be awarded it again. Having said it, is it essential for the company? No. What that RFP allows is for materials that are supplied to the research grants that are awarded by NIDA, and so that's what that represents. The University of Mississippi will continue to do research on cannabis, and that's what we work with them on. And at this stage, we've already licensed what we need to now. Hopefully, we can have more products that come out of that engine, but we don't see that as a threat to us in any way.
Okay, next question. What would be the benefits of your reverse merger with Low Logistics?
Great question. You know, in fact, during the presentation, I realized that I didn't even touch upon we are now a public company. In August, in October of last year, we concluded a reverse merger, and it was a great process. We did so because we wanted to have the transparency of a public company and operate under public company overview. It also gives us access to less expensive capital as we grow, and so it was, for us, a strategic move that was very important, and so now we will be looking to capitalize ourselves and grow in a public market. We are posted on the OTC as you see on the bottom of my slide, or our slide, NMUS.
Next question, John. Are you working with synthetics at all?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we are agnostic, if you will, to whether our ultimate product will be manufactured from a natural product or a synthetic product. We will, and we continue to evaluate what's the best path forward, and variables include the economics of it, they include the approval process, and the manufacturing of the synthetic. So we can very easily manufacture a natural product and move that into humans and submit that to the FDA for approval, or we could choose to make a synthetic copy of our patented molecule and choose that pathway.
Next question. How much variety in terms of strains does the University of Mississippi offer?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and so the University of Mississippi has a tremendous background in the genetics and the varieties of strains. One, because they've been the recipient from the federal government and from the police around the country and actually the world, who send to them samples from large confiscations, and the University of Mississippi has actually done genetics works. They looked at the ratios of THC, CBD, and other cannabinoids to track where these strains come from, which are being crossbred. So they actually have access to a wide variety of strains. We don't think that's really as relevant to us, as we are extracting the individual cannabinoids to either use them by themselves and make in a GMP environment production grade extracts and combining them with others, or we will be making pharmaceutical grade synthetics in the same way. So the question about which varieties is less relevant to us. If we were making a natural botanical product, that would be a more relevant question.
Next question. How much capital do you need to raise, and how do you intend to raise it?
So the process is, I think most people are aware, of drug development is an expensive undertaking, and so we will be working with banks to raise a private placement and do some financial instruments over the next couple of years to raise money. So we've stated publicly that we're right now looking at our next raise of between somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million in the next few months through a private placement, through institutions, through the United States and worldwide.
Do you have any institutional investors at this time, and if so, can you name any of those?
At this time, the monies that we've raised to date have been from private investors, and we are now moving into the institutional side. So we're hopeful that we have good news to share over the coming months.
Okay. Next question. Are there still shareholders from the old company? If so, are they under any leak-out agreements?
So I guess one way to answer that, yes, there are people who are original investors in the company who have participated throughout, and so we are, we love our investors, and we're still at the stage where we're new enough that we know most of the investors, not all, but we know most of them personally on one level or another, and they are huge supporters of what we're doing and committed to the long term. Our current stock is, a lot of it is not able to trade at this stage, so we have a relatively small float of 3.1 million shares that are tradable on the OTC. I think that probably answers the question.
Next question. So how much do you need to raise, and what's your breakdown per endeavor or per drug?
Yeah, we haven't stated publicly how much in total. In fact, we still need to do work on the downstream costs of phase 3. As I mentioned, we're hopeful that our results will be promising enough that we gain support from partners in the marketplace. We look at GW Pharma as a great pioneer in this space. They've been doing some tremendous work. We like to think of ourselves as a U.S.-based form of it with a very unique relationship with the University of Mississippi. That is, GW Pharma has been successful in getting partnerships with a couple of big pharma companies. We're hopeful of doing the same. The $10 to say $15 million amount of money could in fact support the glaucoma pathway through phase 1B, 2A clinical trial. If we really focused on that, it would be nice to raise more money in the time frame to move other of our product candidates forward, but remain relatively contained. We don't want to overextend ourselves as a company. Brian and I have enough experience in this drug development area that we know that you want to maintain your focus on your lead candidates and not get yourself too distributed.
And the next question, John, is a more general question. But if Big Pharma enters the cannabis space, how do you think it impacts mom and pop cannabis?
Well, I mean, this is a great question. The market that is really active today is in the states where it's legal on some level is the dispensary world. A whole bunch of companies are looking to work there, and we certainly believe that will be a robust marketplace. There will also be a robust, likely, we'll see how it unfolds, personal use market. We are in neither, and we shouldn't be seen as a threat in either. Having said it, if you speak to physicians, and I have a bunch of friends who are physicians who have been asked in the state of California by their patients for a medicinal marijuana prescription. All of them all the ones I've spoken with have in fact done that for their patients. All of them felt pretty comfortable thinking that there was probably some positive effects potentially. And all of them felt like when the prescription went to the dispensary, they didn't know what the individual was getting and felt like they lost some control over that and felt uncomfortable on some level. And each one of them has stated, I mean, literally every one of them, almost verbatim, says, I would really like it if these cannabinoids were tested through the FDA process, that they were developed for a particular indication in a particular dose. I knew what the good and the bad of that product was. When I write a prescription for that product for a particular indication, it goes to CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens. It's fulfilled exactly the way that I know it's going to be fulfilled, and it's going to be reimbursed by an insurance company. So it's very Western medicine, and that's practiced in Europe and in many countries. But that's the market we're going after, is that market. And while it may have some impact on dispensary medicinals, in some ways it will also validate the use of them. So it will just give patients and physicians options.
Okay, next question. What patents do you hold?
So the patent I referred to was the one that I listed a few slides back. So that's for the THC ester. I've also sub-licensed from the University of Texas is the patent for the patch, and we're working right now to, and mind you, the patent that I was referring to on the THC ester is a very broad patent with some 66 claims. So one thing one always needs to remember is that patents can be very narrow or they can be very broad, and this one is very broad, and we've had a number of lawyers look at it to give us at least the best of their knowledge and our knowledge, confidence that we have some freedom to operate with this.
Next question. Do you anticipate any unique regulatory hurdles given the federal government's current stance on marijuana/THC?
So I kind of have two answers to that. One, the regulatory hurdles are always the challenges in drug development, but those are mostly doing the right things in the FDA, not trying to cut corners, and trying to give them the evidence necessary. Clearly, with a Schedule I product, and THC is still regulated, as are all cannabinoids, as a Schedule I product until the time that they're approved, and then you appeal to the DEA for rescheduling. We're hopeful that there's some indications that that environment is changing, but we're operating with the belief that that won't change immediately, and so we will work with the DEA at the right times for both approval of our laboratory. Fortunately, the University of Mississippi is very helpful in that they already have gone through that process numerous times with the DEA to approve their laboratories in the handling and study of it. So we are already in the process of doing that. And ultimately, what our goal is, we will go through the FDA path, get our product approved, and then appeal to the DEA if things haven't changed for rescheduling the product. Now, mind you, there's precedence that two other compounds of THC are licensed in the U.S., FDA-approved products, Marinol, the generic is dronabinol, and Sesamet, the generic is Nabilone. Both of those are THC compounds that have, in fact, gone to the DEA and been rescheduled for use. So there are certainly implications, but we think we are addressing them, and will so at the proper times.
I think this is the final question, John. Could you give us an investment summary? In other words, what makes Nemus a great investment?
Well, thank you, Derwin. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate the audience for listening in and learning about our company. What makes our biopharmaceutical company special in the cannabis space is that we are a pharmaceutical company looking to take cannabinoids to the FDA. We have a phenomenal relationship with the University of Mississippi, this entity that has worked with the federal government uniquely for more than 45 years, understanding the science, the biology of these plants, and also the complex environment that we live in. Additionally, we've licensed from them a novel compound that we believe overcomes one of the challenges to the medicinal use of cannabinoids. So we have a unique product that will overcome the issues so that we can potentially provide a more predictable solution for patients and their healthcare givers. And then lastly, we've assembled a team, a core team, and a bunch of partners who are uniquely capable of actually getting these compounds to the finish line. And hopefully you will all see that in us, and we look forward to answering your questions and support. Again, I encourage you to visit our website and download the information and read our 8K to understand us. And I look forward to those of you who want to join the ride.
Thank you, John. Well, that concludes our presentation. Our next presentation is at the top of the hour. We thank you for attending the Cannabis Investor Webcast, and thank you, John, for updating us on Nemus BioScience and also introducing us to Nemus.